floats to the rim. And not only big basket for the Gophers, but a big night for the Golden Gophers basketball team. They host the. Well, I just can't believe what you just said to me. I just got to take a deep breath. The Golden Gophers are hosting Bucky this evening at Williams Arena, and the Wisconsin Badgers, top 20 ranked, I think around 13, and Al Nolen, who's been in studio 9 to noon before. It's nice to have him back. We've been working on this for a little bit. He is the new analyst for the Golden Gopher Radio Network, which, by the way, is part of the iHeartRadio family. And it's his first opportunity, and he's working with Mike Grimm. And Al was a very good point guard for the team back in the day, and he joins us now as an analyst for Golden Gophers basketball. Border battle tonight against Wisconsin, man. How have you been? It's so great to see you.
I've been great, Paul. I appreciate you having me on. It's been an amazing experience. I see why you guys can really love broadcasting, and you sit in these seats for a long time. So I'm really enjoying myself. Absolutely.
Well, you haven't even done it that long yet. Like how many? 13 games or?
Yeah, I'm only like 13 games in. So, yeah. But I can see myself being here for a long time.
Well, this, because you and I generally will just text to set things like this up. So this is the. And I told you this in text, outside of just because of Viking season and other things going on, I haven't heard as much of your work as I will starting tonight and moving forward. So I apologize to you for that. But I can hear right now with you in that chair just looking at me and chatting with me, you popped the microphone and projected, and you just kind of attacked that thing in a way. The last time we did it, it's improved. And that's not a shot at you, but it's improved.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been, working the games on the mic, also working with Mike Grimm. He's been helping me out a lot and kind of guiding me and giving me different, hints and how to do different things. I spoke to Spencer Tollickson before I started as well, and he kind of gave me, different hints on how to go about it, as well as how to work, side to side with Mike. So, my transition has been pretty smooth.
How does one coach somebody how to work side by side with Mike? I mean, it's and I'm smiling at you right now because I love Mike. But I mean, like for somebody debuting as an analyst of Division I college basketball on either on a big radio station or in a big family like iHeartRadio, it's Mike, in my opinion, is arguably the most perfect person to start with because he's so chill. And he loves helping,
Absolutely. Yeah, well, Spencer told me, he said, listen, just make sure you get out in 10 seconds and you'll be good. So leave Mike at least 20 on the shot clock and we'll be good. And so, I've been working on that and just picking my pockets.
Well, but you can't, I mean, are you talking and looking at the shot clock?
No, you just get a feel for it. You just get a feel for it.
Right.
You get an understanding of, when he's going to pause and when you can jump in, and then also he'll leave me space as well to jump in. So sometimes I miss it when he leaves me space and he kind of hints like, hop in there.
But you got to have hand signals.
Yeah, absolutely.
You got hand signals?
Yeah, a little hand signals.
Well, you have to. I mean, you were a point guard for a Division I team, so it might not be a hand signal playing basketball, but I mean, it might be a wink or it might be a nod or something like that with say like, I don't know, Lawrence Jackson or Jamal Abu Shamala or Ralph Sampson Jr. Hey, I got you on the alley-oop here, You
Absolutely.
Have to, because Grimm's the point guard.
Grimm's the point guard.
He's the point guard. Okay, so you're in the same fishbowl but under different rocks. So he, unless he's not feeding it to you the right way, it's little winks, nods, hand signals, stuff like that. That's I think that's a must, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's early, like we talked about. We just getting in, halfway through the season, so I'm still learning him as well. Mm-hmm. But we've been working on it for sure, and it's going really, really, really smoothly.
So what do you like about the job?
Being able to be around the game again and be around the team. I'm a Gopher through and through. Grew up here and went to the U. Had never really played anywhere else out of town. And so, I just love being around the team and seeing them grow and being around Coach Johnson and seeing his philosophy and being able to reconnect with, the athletes and the players and then also being able to go on the road as well. And so it's been a lot of fun. And so sometimes I have to remind myself that I'm not a player because I'm just that excited, to be back around.
Now, the team, which had a really, really rough run last year. And that kind of was the picture that was painted into the season. Like I told you when we were texting or talking, is that, I just generally don't watch a ton up until the Viking season is done. So, I'm not the only person to have this perception. I thought they were terrible this year. I kept hearing they were terrible, things like that. So then I can't remember where I was. It might have been, Las Vegas or for the Vikings. I'm looking up at the TV somewhere and just beat Michigan. Yep. And I'm like, well, I don't, Michigan doesn't have to have Jalen Rose and Chris Webber to be that kind of team. But if you beat Michigan, you ain't that bad. And then it was like, the schedule is soft and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't look at it that way. When you're coming from part of a disaster last year, and you're just beating teams to build confidence, I mean, that's a very important part of the equation, right?
Yeah, for sure. And people also have to realize prior to Coach Johnson getting there was a disaster. And we don't have to name all the things that happened prior to him getting there, but he's really taken on, a big role in trying to dig Gopher basketball out of a hole.
Right.
And so in year 3, he's shown a lot of improvement. And, they started off the season 3-1 in the Big Ten and have dropped a few as of late. However, it's a fairly new team. They have new guards and Mike Mitchell and Elijah Hawkins. So the team has to kind of get used to those guys and their leadership style and how they play. Also really, nice freshman Cam Christie. And then you have, Dawson Garcia's really stepped up. He was preseason All Big Ten, so he's had some really, really solid games as of late, and he's really showing that consistency and starting to, get started going early. So I'm really excited about this team. They have a lot of talent, but they're just trying to figure out how to pull it together. And then Pharrell Payne's been dealing with some injuries, so he's been in and out of the lineup a little bit. But they're doing really well, and Coach Johnson's really turning it around, and we really need to get behind this team. And we also have to understand, kind of where we're at with Minnesota basketball. Kind of trying to work our way back into everything, and then the NIL and the transfer portal. And we're kind of always last when it comes to anything involving, we're more conservative, which I understand. But at the same time, we want our sports to be top notch. We really got to hone in and dig in. And I think they're starting to do that a little bit.
You see, I'm looking at my phone right now. Well, I'm not looking at a text or a story. I had my stopwatch on. I mean, that response to that question went 52 seconds. That's the longest response you've ever given me in studio in the history of our radio relationship. All right, see what's happening here?
Yeah, I see what's happening here.
All right, let's chat more around the corner. Here we got that cash thing.
The Fan, along with the Big Ten Conference, want to give you a chance to put $1,000 in your hand with the National Cash Contest. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword cash. You might win $1,000 of it. So just go to KFAN.com.
On the Fan.
Here is Garcia going baseline. They send a double at him, and now they back it back to a single, so he'll launch a 3 left side and hit it. Garcia needed that from 3. He's 1 for his last 17. Buries that 17-13. Just like that, the lead is back to 4 for Michigan State. Man, Mitchell gives to Hawkins, who tight ropes the baseline. Now to Enan. Enan trying to drive to the elbow. Gets into the paint, waits, shovels back out to Hawkins with 12 to shoot. He's got it on the right wing. Reversing to Enan. Wide open 3 from there. Bullseye! Isaiah Enan.
Welcome back. It's 9 to noon, and Al Nolen in studio. You're going to get to hear him on the call with Mike Grimm. And tip-off, it's Gophers and Badgers. Right around 6 p.m., and you're going to get to hear that KTLK AM 1130, FM 103.5. Al Nolen in studio with us now. And you mentioned it now, doing analysis next to Grimm, Al, you're closer to it maybe than even just as a very invested insider with the program. But, now that you're sitting right there courtside with Grimm handling business, what are some things that you look for that show measurable or obvious growth in a program now that you mentioned it? Ben Johnson into his 3rd year, things look more stable, and maybe there's a health component to all of that. But what are some measurable things that make you say, wow, yeah, Ben's getting it, the players are getting it, and this thing's moving forward?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, you can look at the team camaraderie, and then also we'll say his recruits. And so with him being able to bring in Elijah Hawkins, Mike Mitchell, Cam Christie, that's showing progress right there. Cam Christie was a highly rated recruit, and obviously he's been starting as a freshman and playing really well. And then also Elijah Hawkins and Mike Mitchell have really brought a couple different gears to this team as far as from the guard position, because really, the team, you really go as a team when your guards go, and obviously Dawson Garcia is a solid big man, and he's preseason All Big Ten, so coaches have really done a good job. Coach Johnson really done a good job of developing him over the years and making sure he feels comfortable to be back home. after bouncing around a few different places. So you just kind of, and it's turning into wins. As like we said, they started out 3-1 in the Big Ten, and they were finished to pick last place, and we know that's not going to happen. And so, Gopher fans just have to be happy with what they're seeing, but also they have to get out and support. And, we go to travel around to these different various other college, athletic towns. And, even if the team's terrible, the atmosphere is amazing, and the fan support is still there. And obviously, some of those towns don't have, Wild, Timberwolves, and Vikings, right. So I understand that. But, it's also, coming into wins and losses as well. And so for them to have such a hot start, but then kind of fall off due to injuries, it's a big one tonight. So I'm looking forward to them getting that W tonight.
How common is it? Because, like, for instance, on the women's side with Plitza White and the different coach, but it's a year over year in a vacuum turnaround where they were like 4 wins in the conference all season. Now they're off to a fantastic start, 14-4 overall. Or Wisconsin in town tonight. Wisconsin was in the NIT last year. Now they're highly touted, highly ranked. How often is it? How common is it? How realistic is it when you think about how programs operate, that from year to year you can see that massive script change without changing a vast amount of pieces?
Yeah, it's common. It happens a lot, but everybody has to understand as well. Coach Johnson took over after, the social climate and Minnesota being like the hub for the world watching, and then also COVID, and then the NIL and the transfer portal. So, the coaches that kind of caught, their new coaching job in the past 2-3 years are really having to hit the ground running and learning, the new landscape of college basketball. So it's pretty common. And then you look at Wisconsin, the gentleman was assistant coach when I was playing, so they basically just, passed down the tradition to him. So it's a little bit simpler for him to just pick up, where he left off. So, Coach Johnson is his uphill battle for him, but he's doing a great job. And, alumni like myself and others that I talk to are really behind him and support him and know he's the right man for the job.
Who's the assistant with Bucky?
No, he's a head coach now.
Oh, who is that?
Guard, his name? I don't
Greg
know.
Gard.
Greg Gard.
I'm not speaking Badgers names over the air.
No, that's fine. I come because it's when you played, and I remember that there were a couple of Minnesotans in John Lure,
right?
Orono, I believe, and Jordan Taylor.
Yeah.
Was he from Bloomington, maybe? Something?
Yep. Plymouth. He went to Benil St. Margaret right down the road.
Right. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, you guys with those Minnesotans, man, you had some awesome battles with Lure and Taylor, and was there a Krabinoff or whatever?
Yep.
But those games had to be fun for you, man. But you went 2-3 against Bucky in your run here. You had a career best 9 rebounds in your first game against Wisconsin in 2008. What were those battles like?
Oh man, they were amazing. And I believe we only went 2-3 because I think probably a couple of them I had to sit out. So, but yeah, we were better than the Badgers when I played.
Really?
During my time, absolutely.
In what way? Just better overall team?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Where any given night you didn't know who was going to win. More so now, I mean, I believe the Gophers, the Badgers have won majority of them out of the past, maybe 4 or 5. But when I played, it was a battle, and either way it could go, we could win. And a lot of times we were ranked higher than them. But they did have Taylor and Lure, and those are really good Minnesota guys. So we got to figure out how to lock that border and then get Lakeville North to stop sending players over there.
Is Penn State good?
Penn State's all right. They actually just defeated Wisconsin at home.
Yeah,
so
but
they're all right.
I mean, before that, Bucky's on a 6-game bender, the good way. Then they lose to, let's say, the Crispin brothers or the Crispin twins. Joe, the Crispins played for Penn State, right? Did you play against them?
No, I don't remember playing
against them. That might have been before you. And then after that, they beat Indiana. Well, the Gophers, is Nebraska good? And I'm sorry to play catch up here, but like Fred Hoiberg is one of my favorite people in sports that I've met in all the time I've been here, and he coaches the Huskers, and I hear that they're better than they were last year, right?
Yeah, they're pretty good, but we were able to defeat them here at home and came back. And so even right now with the Big Ten, Minnesota's in the middle of the pack, and the dust is kind of settling where the tiers are kind of starting to show themselves. You got Purdue and Wisconsin, Illinois is at the top, and then everybody else is kind of falling in line and figuring out where they are. And right now, that's why this game is so important tonight for the Gophers to make a statement. And I'm not sure I know Elijah Hawkins was out last game, but I know he's questionable or he's a game time decision. Coach said for tonight's game, which is going to be huge. Hopefully he's able to play and get out there because the Gophers really need him. But we're right there in the middle of the pack, and upper echelon is Wisconsin. They're standing alone with only one loss in the Big.
Tell us, this is the third time you've mentioned the name Elijah Hawkins, and I know who he is, and I've heard his name before, but like, what makes him good? What do you like about him so much?
Man, he's a jet out there. Really, really good defense, leader of the team, but he's a pass first point guard, and the Gophers haven't had that in a while. And so he's able to come in there and really get Dawson Garcia going, get Pharrell Payne going, get guys on the wing, Cam Chrissy, Braden Carrington going. And so, that's huge. He has the all-time assist record now with 17 in a game. So
damn.
He did that this year.
Who did he break?
Ariel McDonald.
Okay.
The great Ariel McDonald.
Wasn't Al Nolen?
Wasn't Al Nolen. I tell everybody, I'm like, I couldn't pass the ball as good as this guy. So it's really been, fun watching him. And then also, he was leading, I don't know if he still is, but leading the nation in assists, averaging about around a little under.
Yeah, it's 7.8 right now. That's a crazy stat to see in college basketball where there is such a team element. For him to be that field general like that, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Michigan State, the Izzo's team. What do you think of that team, like long play wise? Is it a super good team or what?
Yeah, Izzo, they always start out slow. And I think it's the way he coaches where, he gets on the guys early and then they develop that confidence as he lets off them down, later on in the year, and then they go on these runs and they still play tournament. And they've always been known to sometimes start out slow and then come on strong. And they have a really, really talented team. So I definitely think they'll be there challenging at the end of the day for the Big, as they've won a couple in a row after beating Minnesota. However, like I said, we were down Elijah Hawkins, but we were right there in that game to the last 3 minutes. I was really impressed by how the Gophers went toe-to-toe with such a, in his zone.
Now Dawson Garcia, that's the former Tar Heel, right?
Yes, it is.
Right. Smooth game when it's just like when I was watching him last year, he was kind of in and out with performances, but I mean, you can tell he's smooth, and you could tell why the Tar Heels at one point, now eventually here, but why they wanted him, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, his game's really, really smooth. Smooth lefty, Mr. Shifty himself. So he plays really good, and he's becoming a lot more consistent, and I know he was dealing with the injury, so he's working his way back for that, but he's looking solid now, and he's also being a lot more aggressive early on in the game and just, getting in that mindset of understanding there's a reason he's preseason All Big Ten, and so he's really, been consistent for the Gophers, down low in the paint and really playing inside-outside basketball, and he had a really good game against Michigan State where, he was keeping them in it and, had maybe like 8 buckets in a row, and so they were just short point guard and ball handling that game, or else I believe they would have won that one.
Did Ben Johnson recruit Elijah Hawkins?
Yep, that's one of his recruits.
All right. Well, I don't know, where he played, high school basketball, but he's from Washington, D.C. In D.C., you have DeMatha High School. I don't know if he played there.
That's where he played.
He played at DeMatha?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
I mean, back in the day when I lived there, they had a coach named Morgan Wooten, who's one of the most famous high school basketball coaches. He was like the John Wooden of high school basketball coaches. And there was a player there named Hawkeye Whitney, ended up going to NC State. So, I mean, that was kind of a factory right there. And it's right in D.C., which is kind of a sneaky good basketball area. But so Ben is obviously getting out and recruiting and everything, but in, at least abroad. But in closing, is the portal in college basketball as much of a problem for people as it is in college football?
Yeah, I believe it is. I believe it is. And it's going to be a problem for the Gophers moving forward because other colleges are willing to just kind of throw out resources a little more to, because of fandom there, and they want to get people here. And we're a little more conservative, trying to, go about it, I guess people would say, the right way or figure it out and
the
take
NIL.
our time. Yeah, the NIL.
Yeah.
Piece of it. And then the transfer portal, one of the reasons Coach Johnson recruited Hawkins was because he had that winner's background. He comes from Howard University, where he led them to NCAA tournament berth. So Coach Johnson, one of the reasons he always talks about, the reason he recruited Elijah Hawkins is because he comes from the cloth and has the mindset of being a winner, and he wanted to bring winners here for the Gophers, and it's turning out to pay off for him.
So when you call the game tonight and say Elijah Hawkins or somebody's going up for a dunk and Grimm's on a bad call, on a good call, he's like sitting back. You just got to, as the dunk's taking place, like, oh, yeah! Right during the dunk call and
clomp on him.
Yeah, well, this actually shows somebody more about themselves than the individual who's doing the clomping. So do that for us one time tonight, okay?
I got you. I will.
Just jump on one of those dunk calls.
I got you. I don't know how much Grim going to like that, but, we'll see what we can do.
Yeah, we'll deal with him. Stop by next week if you get the opportunity.
Will
okay?
do. I would love to.
Yep. God bless you, my man.
Thank
and,
you.
Congratulations. Al Nolen, he's the analyst for the Golden Gophers Radio Network. Speaking of basketball, I had a conversation with the Wolves coach Chris Finch right out of the gate. If you missed it, we're going to replay it now.
The Fan.
Final segment, 9 to noon, and we're jumping back to the open of the show. Weekly guest, courtesy not only of Prize Picks, but Second Harvest Heartland. Head coach of the Wolves, Chris Finch. Tough loss last night, to say the least, right? 128-125, the final. The Wolves, as massive favorites, lose to the 9-win, now 10-win, Charlotte Hornets. But he kicked off the show with PA today, and they got the conversation going. PA's like, hey, Mike Conley out of the game. Cool vest that he was wearing, by the way. But do you think it would have been easier to get this thing righted if Conley had been in the game?
Yeah, I think there's every chance that we had a big impact. But, we have to be able to do these things without Mike Conley on the floor, and so it's really not an excuse. I think, Mike was on the bench. I'm sure he was saying the right things there. Obviously, without the ball in his hands, he has less control over what's going on the floor. But yeah, I mean, he's been so vital to our to everything, to our maturity, to our clutch play, to our leadership, to our mentorship of young guys. I wish we would have had him last night, but we didn't. And that's going to happen sometimes. We may be in a game, maybe there's foul trouble, maybe he misses a game because of injury or illness. And we got to be able to grow up and, find ways to do those things without him.
And off the loss to the Hornets last night, you were pretty mad after the game, ain't no doubt about that. But it probably would have been the same way had you guys won it at the buzzer, right? Maybe you wouldn't have said some things the exact same way, but even if they had won, that there clearly were things that developed in that game that frustrated you, right?
Yeah, this is a results business. There's no doubt about it. I would much rather have, won and then, Cat had a great special night, and but it wouldn't have changed the process. The process wasn't good enough. It wasn't repeatable. It wasn't to the standard we had played. It wasn't to our identity. It wasn't about the right things. So, yeah, we take the win, and at the end of the day, they don't ask how, they ask how many. And we would have, moved on, but and I still would have been annoyed, and we would have covered the same things we're going to cover in a film session, having lost the game. So, yeah, of course, we'd rather win than lose, but you're 100% right. I don't think I would have felt that much better about the overall performance, had we won the game.
When it comes to shaking off losses or, handling big winning streaks with humility, and sometimes via human nature, it's not the easiest thing in the world. And what I'm getting at is I know that Oklahoma City game over the weekend, that as this point of the season goes, probably was a pretty big game, man. They're half behind you in the Western Conference. They're better than Charlotte, and you guys had a big lead and didn't win the game. So do you think whether players, were there any lingering impacts from that when it started to go sideways last night?
I don't think there was I think the overall, you can't make a value judgment coming into any of these games. Just can't, anybody could beat you on any given night, particularly with the ability to shoot a 3-point shot. You saw how that changed quickly in the fourth quarter, where they made 6 of 10 threes and they made them all when we were up,
right?
By 17. So, you just can't. We see it every night. We see these big leads reverse. But my problem was from the jump. I just felt from the very beginning that, we just didn't have the right approach. So the lingering effect, to answer your question, from the Oklahoma City game was we make a value judgment coming into the game where we're not ready to play at the level that we need to play at. and stick to who we've been on the defensive end of the floor, which has been the driver of our success.
Well,
we want to trade buckets. We want to, take the easy road, and that approach always gets you burned.
Right, and I mean, obviously, as the coach and the leader of the team, you're gonna take a fair amount of that personally. Like maybe you should snap, and they're just going to be the same every single game. But like, how do you run that balance between there's only so much you can do, and then when that little tidal wave starts to happen, like it happened last night, and you can't get the connectivity with the people on the floor to change it. I mean, how do you handle that?
It's frustrating. You try, obviously in the game you can make some substitutions. You can try to direct the offense, change the coverages on defense. But if the foundation of effort and concentration and application is not there, then it's just a shell game. You're just moving things around,
right,
but nothing's really changing. So at that point in time, and I think, having been in the game long enough, we've all seen and been a part of these types of games. And, I'd even mentioned at halftime, I mentioned it in my presser after the game, like at halftime, I was like, why don't we play some defense so when they make shots and we fail to make shots, that this game doesn't flip on us, which is exactly what happened. And we've been through this a number of times, or anybody who's been in sports knows when these things happen. And if you're in the trenches, that's where you feel it the most,
So when you share something like that, which I'm sure, last night wasn't the first time you've shared something, as pointed as that, and it's nobody's business whether you yelled or you were terse or it was just, like in passing, but how does the team react when you get direct like that? Because personally, you're very direct, man, which I love, but I just wonder sometimes how that works with this generation of player.
Well, I mean, if you have competitive players, they react to it, I think obviously when you're in coaching, you have to use a lot of different nuanced styles to get your message across. And being direct and being harsh, or being direct and, losing your mind, which you're allowed to do a couple times a year, are not always the same thing. You could be direct with a very, non-threatening tone, and you can be direct with a threatening tone. And the reality is all this stuff has to be built on the relationship that you have with your players, and they got to want the same things you want, and they got to see the same things that you see. And if that's the case, then it resonates. And with us, these guys have been great. They've been great responding to the different challenges and messages that we've given them, all season and pretty much since I've been here for the most part. So, I expect us to go into film session today with the right mindset and approach to learn, take it on the chin. We have a saying around here where we talk about being brutal truth, like being brutally honest with each other, because it's the only way we're going to get through some of the issues that we need to get through. We don't have time all the time to be able to kind of soft sell every message we're trying to get across.
It's good, Chris. I mean, it's abundantly clear. Now, granted, you guys have the best record in the Western Conference, and it's been a wonderful season. There have been some metaphorical moguls along the way, undoubtedly and obviously, including like last night. But it's clear to me, at least, that you sense these guys have a chance to do something really special if and or when they tighten the defense and consistently pass better. Is that a fair depiction?
100%, 100%. It's all part of this growth curve we're on right now. But we can accelerate that growth curve because the league has never been more open than it is right now. It's never been more, competitive, if you will. 5 years, 5 different champions, right?
Yep.
2 years ago, Denver gets pretty much swept, I think, in the first round, and the next year they win the championship. Things, fortunes can switch quickly. Windows close quickly. Look at Memphis. A couple years ago, everyone thought they were the belle of the ball, and through circumstances beyond their control or for whatever reason, they are where they are now. So it's just, you have to try to maximize these opportunities, and it has to be about winning, and it has to be about winning for winning's sake and in the pure sense of winning and putting into whatever it takes to win, not just trying to win on the terms that you want to win on, or, your readiness to play every single night. Like, it has to be there because, winning is a hard, long, boring process. And it takes mental toughness as well as everything else. And that mental toughness is, can you repeat it every single night? But I agree. I think we have depth. I think we have versatility. We have uniqueness to our team. We have a lot of things that give us a chance to do something special, but we haven't done anything right now. We've had a nice season, and we're only halfway through it, and we got to do it all over again for another 40 games.
Chris Finch, weekly 9 to noon, courtesy of Prize Picks, Daily Fantasy Made Easy, and Second Harvest Heartland at 2harvest.org. The points given up to the Hornets, including the first time you played the Hornets, and I believe you won that game. I mean, it's higher than you would desire, and a lot of open 3-pointers for them when they were making that run. And I know that's going to work on your last nerve, man, but I don't know. I mean, defensively, maybe you cut up, because you said you're going to watch some cut-ups. Maybe you cut up that sequence where Rudy slid with LaMelo and forced him into bad shots and misses. I mean, that's the defense you desire, right? You got this 7-footer and LaMelo Ball, and he's keeping up with him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's we've seen that type of effort, more often than not from the bulk of our guys, from all of our guys at one point or another. But again, you got to do it every night, all the time. I mean, our starts defensively haven't been great in the last handful of games. And that to me is an indication of we're going to kind of smooth our way into the game. We're going to take it easy, and then we're going to play defense when we're desperate. We're not going to play defense from the jump. We're not going to impose ourselves from the jump, which we need to start to do again. We had been really, really good at that. It had been part of our identity. And again, you got to understand why you win. If you don't understand why you win, you're never going to be true to that identity night in and night out.
With the game Carl had last night, and this is probably a dumb question, but I just don't know what players talk about at halftime or how much they look at their phones and stuff like that. But any chance at halftime Carl and the gang caught wind Embiid was en route to 70 and became focused on keeping up with Joel and forgot they were playing the Hornets?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I really don't know. It hasn't been brought to my attention, but again, it could very well be the case. I'm not sure. But
you know what I mean. I mean, it's a long shot, but and with Carl, it's ridiculous, man, that he didn't get the call near the end of the game, or when you look back at it, because in your press conference you hadn't seen it at that point, and I know you've probably seen it 15 times by now. So okay, he got hacked, ain't no doubt about it. Or do you look at it he kind of hooked the guy off the dribble, so like maybe the penalties kind of offset,
Here's how I look at it. Well, he definitely got fouled. It's definitely a call that needs to be made. We didn't deserve to win that game. So that call is not even on my radar of things I'm concerned about this morning.
Right. Given with the Hornets, given they were down Williams and Richards, they just had no beef to handle your big guys, specifically Karl Anthony Towns. So what was Cat attacking in the way he did, mostly the right way to hit them last night?
He shot the three extremely well. I mean, the way that they were, we were able to get free and pick and roll with Cat, I think is kind of what opened the door for the big night. The bulk of those, I think he had 22 in the first. They were all in the flow, and in the second he had another 22. Most of those we started trying to feed the hot hand, and largely they were all good shots in the flow. A couple heat checks that you would expect, and they went in. And then of course in the third quarter, we had, obviously he's trying to go chase the game again, see if he can reestablish his rhythm. But we needed to try to get more people involved in that point in time. Because what happens is when you need to make shots in the guts of the game, other people need to have felt the game all throughout the game. But I mean, it was certainly a special performance by him. It's a shame that it was wasted. And, we were able to, he was able to take advantage of matchups in all different types of ways.
Now, I know you got to get off to Signature here in a moment. Do I have time for a couple more questions, or do you have to fly?
No, I got time.
I appreciate you. Chris Finch, a weekly 9 to noon, courtesy of Prize Picks and Second Harvest Heartland. And you knew the three from the corner late, what was going to go in after the missed layup, and the Hornets ran out 5-on-4, right? I mean, I could tell that bugged the bleep out of you.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's just how it works, right? Like, especially in those types of games, we miss a layup. Missed layups are like turnovers in the league right now. I mean, with the pace of the league, and now a missed layup oftentimes leaves you a guy behind the play. Now you're trying to cover in transition, flat along the baseline. But I think we all saw that shot as soon as the guy was setting up for it. When it left his hand, we all saw that was going to go in.
So with the cut-ups, are like, do you coach them up on the charter to D.C. or Dulles, or does that interfere with the Boo Ray game, or maybe people trying to rest?
What we'll do is we'll watch this one when we get there, and we'll put it to bed after that. But hopefully we'll learn the right things and come out and get back to who we know we can be.
Last one here, my brother. Thanks for the time. Apple Valley's Tyus Jones is on the docket tomorrow night. Now, the Wiz ain't great, but Tyus is averaging the most points and assists of his career, and he turns it over fewer than one time a game, which kind of surprised me. Nice player, Tyus Jones, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Great player. He's not, when I think of him, I go back to like his time in Memphis. Some incredible record, like they're like 22-2 or 22-1 in games where Morant did not play that season. And that was a year that Morant was like in the discussion for MVP, and they were winning at this level even when he didn't play. And that just goes to show you the type of winning impact Tyus has.
I appreciate it, man. Best of luck with the squad tomorrow night. Take care of the Wiz, and we'll talk soon, okay?
I appreciate it. Thanks, PA.
Oh, yeah.
Truncated wrap on the show today. Brought to you by Casey's. Reminder, large one-topping pizza, full price, second one, half off at Casey's. Out of time, so I guess we'll stick with the baby wrap. Are these top QBs in the draft just a thirst trap? Second mortgage on the farm, we're taking a big swing. Wrong choice, a multi-year bee sting. Back tomorrow, I'm sure some more on the topic. The way we look at these things, albeit myopic. One thing we haven't talked about, a card not played. Maybe a certain wide receiver brings a haul via trade.
And the silence you hear is Lambeau Field.
Podcast today's Paul Allen Show back to previous show and interviews by going to the iHeartRadio app